Hello and welcome to the Tech Lunch Podcast, where we encourage our listeners to learn something new about tech every week. This can range from learning about new and exciting applications to the advancements in coding and technology. If you are always learning, you will always be a step above the rest. Take the time during lunch or during a break to listen and learn, kind of like a lunch and learn, but for the ears. This podcast will open the listener's ears to new and exciting technologies they may have not been purview to in the past. These topics will range from manufacturing technologies to data collection technologies and everything in between. Hello, I'm Nick.
Hey, I'm John.
And this week you see here that we don't have Ed. Ed was kind of, had other things and other commitments to do this week, so it's just going to be me and John this week. And, if you hear a little bit of whining in the background, that's a wonderful 3D printer, going at it, the Ender 5 Pro. So, as you heard on our Facebook page and a couple other things, especially with the current, not Facebook page, but YouTube channel, with the current unboxing that we just did. So, with that, we'll be posting another unboxing on Friday. This week we're going to kind of continue down that rabbit hole of, the 3D printer barrier to entry. And one of those things is, to what I can tell, is availability. Because you can't just go to some normal store and go buy filament, which I think is kind of a pain in the butt.
Not at Walmart.
No.
Not at Walmart.
The funny part is it used to be, not Hobby Lobby, but, what was it, Michael's? No, not Michael's. Jo-Ann Fabrics.
Yeah, Jo-Ann's.
Used to carry filament all the time. Used to carry PLA, and it was actually really good PLA, surprisingly.
They probably still have resin. I wouldn't doubt that, because they've got dyes and things of that nature, crafts like that.
Well, I was in there the other day, and they don't have, especially the local one to us,
don't have anything?
They don't have any PLA left. They sold it all. So you have to rely on Amazon.
Yeah.
Or you have to rely on some other, hobby stores. There is a hobby store in, north of us that does have PLA, that does have filament available in the state, which is kind of ironic.
But, we're talking, widespread, I live in the middle of rural Kansas where there's no one within miles of me, but I can order, Amazon filament. So, that's, Amazon's probably going to be your best bet. But, what happens if you don't have access to Amazon?
Right, exactly.
Right? What happens if you're that student that's in class, but he wants to test something? You can't just go to the teacher and say, hey, buy extra filament because I want to try something. Maybe you bring your own, right? Yeah. And now, that's a little bit, down the line is where's... there's not enough 3D printers in classrooms right now, so...
Yeah, that's another topic that we'll get into eventually.
So that also goes into availability.
Right.
Is that, as a student growing up, I saw a lot of people kind of staying away from sciences, applied sciences, because it's unknown is hard.
Yeah, STEM education.
I don't want to because it's difficult, or it's going to... That's fine. But if I made it fun with a 3D print, or some type of modeling, if you don't like, the printing side, you just like the software.
Right.
Then it would be so much more easier as far as availability for the kids. Now, I know we were just talking about consumables and stuff, though.
Yeah, but, still, it's the use of a 3D printer in a classroom and stuff like that. We've touched on that before. And, in earlier video, an earlier YouTube, and earlier podcast, sorry. But that's just something that I think needs to be revisited every time you get a chance, because, if you're trying to influence STEM education at all levels, you need to get a 3D print in the classroom. The other day, it took me an hour or two to print one of the the triangles that's made up of nothing but triangles.
Nice little torture test.
Right. But it's also a educational tool that you can use. You print the big ones, and you can bring them into a classroom, and they can see how even a triangle with 0% infill can support multiple triangles above it without collapsing.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Think about when I was in school, and we're talking about how do bridges work, right? Suspension bridges, and how did the aqueducts work and things like that. Yep. It's I'm not around, we can't just get on the bus and go to San Francisco and look at one of the largest bridges, suspension bridges. We have to look at pictures on the internet, or if I could just 3D print you a model and showed you and put like relative weight, and when I say relative, I mean like you're not making a bridge print the size of the actual bridge, so you can't put a car on it, but something equivalent to that, and tested out the physics of that, then you would be able to see, and we say it all the time, seeing is believing,
right?
Like prove it. Picture it didn't happen, like stuff like that.
Exactly.
So,
and with that, you can also really, honestly, if you really thought about it, teach chemical sciences.
Oh yeah.
Because you have PLA, which is an acid. And then you have PETG, which is a glycol.
Yeah.
Two completely different substances. One's closer to ABS, and the other one's closer to just being air. And it melts at lower temp. So and then you have the resin printer. That's what you're getting into.
Yeah.
If you think about it, you start getting into chemical sciences at that point.
Yeah, it's kind of scary.
And you start getting into chemistry.
Yeah.
It's like a resin printer is the utmost way of looking at taking a liquid to a solid.
Yeah.
And then doing it over and over again to get to a final product.
Yeah, and it's crazy because the more, what am I, like 2 weeks in, if that, the more and more I think about and I watch the process and I do the post-processing, the more I see that it's not as simple as just you're using UV to cure a wave or a layer at a time. There's so many more steps that go into it and how that works. Like the reaction that, isopropyl alcohol has to it when you're washing it after your print. By the way, you should wash every print after it comes out because that resin is still toxic to the touch. You need to wash it and then cure it immediately.
It doesn't neutralize the acid.
I'm telling you, see, and that's chemical sciences. Like it's where I feel like we talk about it all the time, like feeling like a scientist or like applied sciences. I've talked about this with my family and friends before. As applied sciences, what does that mean? And this is that. Right. This is you applying the physics of, for FDM, temperature changes, how things react at certain temperatures, and also it teaches you conservation of energy because that flows through. Because I tell you what, if you don't have filament in there, where's that heat going to go? And that energy the energy is going to the filament to heat it, and that's what melts it. But if you don't have that medium, what's going next? It's probably going to be your nozzle.
It's going to break something.
Yeah, something else. Or it's just going to catch on fire. And please, dear God,
stay away from that one.
Same thing as putting a pot on the stove without anything in it and just letting it sit there. It's not a good idea.
Anybody who's had a lot of drinks in the middle of the night, you found that problem. Everybody knows the drunken ramen.
Yeah.
But, with that, you kind of, realize that, get an FDM printer into a classroom, when you're talking availability wise, is easier than getting a wash cure station and a resin printer in the classroom.
Yeah.
Unless you're at higher level education. Because you don't want to have, open chemicals near around kids.
Yeah, I could see it more in a chemistry class than I could.
Yeah, chemistry classes, sure. Because you know better than to go touching a random chemical that's reactive.
Oh.
Hopefully.
Learn. Yeah, or you'll learn really quickly if not.
The first time you create chlorine gas, you realize that this ain't good.
Chemical burn. The first chemical burn you experience, you will not want another.
Right, exactly. We've all been there.
Yeah.
And, it's like, the thing is, but you start getting into the fact of, are they available to every school district? Probably not.
Nope.
Why? Because they can be a little pricey. You can get a low cost Ender right now, the Ender 3, not the V2 or the Pro. So you'll have a little bit of, extra noise, but for less than $200, and if you really look closely, you can find them less than $100.
I think
if you find like the refurbs, if you want to get into it that way for your kids, but then you're starting getting into the fact that, okay, cool, we're having to buy filament for these things. Filament's about $15 a roll, which it does last you a long time, depending on what you're printing.
Yeah. I can get a lot of prints out of a single roll. Honestly, I've been printing for a year and some change now, almost 2 years at this point. I think Tell me when.
Yeah, you're good.
Oh, good?
Yeah.
Oh. So thinking about it, how how many roles I've used since it's been about 2 years, a little bit under 2 years. It's like 8 roles total, like to completion. Now, that doesn't mean I don't have like just as many roles that are opened and kind of sitting that I was like, okay, I like this, but I need a different color or a different fill or different type. Like I've used TPU before or PETG, switch between those. Now those are a little bit harder to print at, but like thinking about those things and this consumables, you also kind of got me thinking about the availability kind of aspect in the classroom. For not just the students, but for the teacher. Yep. Like you think about what support would like if we let's just kind of go down this rabbit hole. I got an Ender 3. Mm-hmm. I put it in the classroom. It's a 3rd grade class. They're going through all their subjects, whatever. And that teacher is supposed to be the guide for this whole scenario. What if they can't get the printer to work out the way they want it to? So availability of support is huge to me. Is like we're nothing but our support systems, right?
Phone call away support. That's
seriously like a lifeline. Like call somebody if somebody's gonna know. And honestly, if you're in our line of work as well, it's like, please, I would really hope that you called me and told me that you did not know, then called me later and said, I started pressing buttons and it did this. Help. No, don't do that.
It started doing something funny and I don't know what that funky smell means.
You should probably leave. It might, you might have a chemical reaction.
And the thing is, you're trying to make sure that, it doesn't give up the, the blue ghost. If it gives up the blue ghost, then just tear it off and throw it away. Yeah. Or start replacing parts. If you don't know what the blue ghost is, the blue ghost means you fried something.
Yeah.
When you plug a 120 into a 220, guess what? You give up the blue ghost.
Yeah.
Instantaneous. It's going to fry it, and you're gonna fizzle.
Yeah, you're gonna fizzle. Don't be near that.
Don't do that. That's bad juju. But I think that that's something that some people don't think about is support.
Wow.
It's like. It's like I would say that your closest line of support for a 3D printer is call your local IT department. Don't do that. Do not call your local IT department and say, I've got a problem with my 3D printer. They won't know anything about it unless you got people inside your department that are really good at it.
You need someone that knows CAD.
Yeah.
But like we've talked about it before, 3D printing is the marriage between OT and IT. Right. So like you call IT department, they can say, I looked at your screen, it's not reading the right version. We should probably update your configuration file.
Right.
But what if I've got this thing over here that's everything is right on the software side, but I'm printing out a spaghetti monster still? That IT guy is not going to be able to support a busted nozzle or like the extruders like being too tight. They may be like, if someone's intuitive enough and someone's curious enough, they'll find those.
Right.
They may be able to fix them. But, we live in the real world. We've been in a lot of these situations. We find out a lot of the times that if it strays outside of their realm of quote-unquote responsibility or their scope, then they are not going to do it. And I think that's like, I understand.
Right.
Like, I get it. We can't stretch ourselves but so thin. But, like, how do we make that... The question becomes, how do we make that support availability better? Like, for me, honestly, if I'm looking for support, right now I'm going to the community. I'm going to Reddit.
Yeah.
I'm going to maybe the manufacturer. Mm-hmm. Now, granted, I called up Creality and say, hey, I got a problem with this printer. I need you to help me fix it. They're going to say, you should probably just buy a new printer.
Yeah, exactly. You have a warranty card for that.
Yeah, you got a warranty. So like that's kind of not a good direction, and that's why I say the community. But you reach out to us if you guys are trying that. Yeah. But like we're also just thinking about big picture.
Right. We can't help outside of our realm of
we're
reach.
We're only 3 guys. Like
right. We're 3 guys for right now. And if it grows right past that, shit.
Yeah.
We're all for it. If not, then hey, guess what? We're having fun with it.
Nobody knows what the future holds. So.
Right, exactly. And the big thing is, honestly, when it comes down to support, the availability of support, that's when being able to reach out, is one of those things that helps. Just, send an email, ask for help, whatever. But also what I'd like to see is somebody, if you're inside of a school zone, hook up all of your printers to Octoprint, have hard IPs to them, and map them all back to an interface so somebody can log in and see every single, hey, I got a problem in this classroom. Okay, cool. Let me log in real quick and let me take a look.
See, that's actually a beautiful idea, because like I did, what was it? It was a couple months ago when we did training for with ProTech, which was fantastic, by the way. I had a couple teachers, quite a few teachers in my entire lifetime, but these guys were very interactive and kind of brought me through things and made sure I understood the lab, not just went through the motions. And that's the kind of support I'm looking for. But like when we think about that, they have one, their IT guy was not only supporting that one lesson being taught, but he was supporting all the lessons. Mm-hmm. So your idea as far as one guy with Octoprint with like a Raspberry Pi stack or something like that, or each one has a Raspberry Pi and he has it connected back to a central like, something like that. And you have one guy in the whole district so you don't need to hire a guy at every school. You hire a guy for the district. Shit, you hire a guy for the county. Does it get a group of guys for the state? Now, if you're getting into public school, then that would be more government pushes. But right. I think that right there, you get a group of like 5 to 10 people to support a state. You'll be good, depending on which state, of course.
Right, but even having one person per one person per school. Yeah. It's still, hey, you got on-site support. That if I open up the Octoprint and I see there's a problem, I can go down and I can put hands on that machine. Yeah. And I can walk through and explain how this works. Yeah. And the thing is at that same time, I'm just not educating the teacher, but I'm educating the kid, the students that are with them. Hey, this is what I'm troubleshooting. Bring a little bit more of that STEM education into the conversation. Yeah. Explain why this thing isn't happening. Not just the fact that, I have to power cycle the darn thing. Or I have to do a PID auto tune. Which, if you ever have to do one of those things, you'll realize it's interesting. Yeah. But, and that's the thing. It's like, the availability there is, hit nor miss. Depending on what you're looking at for, support-wise. Because, if you got access to the internet, you got support. Yeah. However, you have to be able to explain what your issue is. Yeah. So, you got some of the teachers out there who are like robotics professors or teachers, in some of the middle schools and stuff like that, teaching STEM education. They're going to understand what to ask for. Some other teachers, they might not, depending on their level of knowledge of computers. Mm-hmm. Or if they have time to read an error message on a screen that tells you what the issue is. Yeah. That's, in our line of work, if you don't, it broke. That is the number one complaint we get. Mm. It broke. It's not what's broke. Don't tell me it broke. Mm-hmm. Please explain to me what your issue is. Yes. Well, it doesn't do what I want it to do. Okay. That really doesn't help me at all. No.
It's just saying it broke in a different way. Come on.
Right. It won't charge. Right, okay. If you plug it in. Those are issues that, in the IT community,
you'd be surprised.
We are a tech company. You do hear a lot. Mm-hmm. The funny part is when you hear it from IT guys, that means that they are now going to get dogged for the rest of the afternoon, and either A, they buy lunch, or B, they buy beer. It's how it goes. Wow. Or soda, or water, or whatever. Not saying that, hazing and dogging people is good, but, it happens. It's just how it is, and everybody learns. The IT community is the community that tries to help each other, one step at a time, learn a new trick, a new skill.
Yeah, and if you can't laugh at yourself, then you're kind of taking it way too serious.
And that's the thing about 3D printing. Don't, come out of the box thinking, oh, I'm going to be able to, print, reverse, squares and all this other stuff. And stuff that requires biodegradable freaking filament. Yeah, no. Yeah. Take time slow, start with your benchies, go to your lizards, and, work your way around from there.
You really need to.
That's what we all did.
You need to take your time.
Right, exactly.
You need to.
And the thing is, it's like, if you don't have an Ender available in your area that you're in, but you have another brand of 3D printer, try it. You know, you might not be able to find a whole lot of support for it, but it's still there. They're all going to do the same thing. The other things that they have the kids with is the 3D printer pins.
Oh yeah, the where it's just the hot end. You're just holding it, right, and it's got some protection around it, and you just press the button and it'll shoot out the filament just like your nozzle would. Yep. That's something that's really cool to me because I know we're talking about it for in school and kids are using it, but that sparks a different thought process for me because we think about circuit boards and circuitry. Like this can go into schooling as well. There is conductive filament. Yeah. So effectively, I know that people have kind of perfected some of it in some type of form, but you could draw out your circuits and legitimately draw out your circuits on a piece of paper or with some type of
melamine, like we got in
like melamine, and put power to the side and power a light on the other side. Make a circuit or something, like make a counter or a relay or anything at all. And that to me is in any circuitry, mechatronics, any advanced robotics, or not even advanced, like basic circuits.
That's STEM education right there.
That is what you need. That to me is like, if you don't have that in your curriculum, then what are you really doing? Like you have all these situations that are virtualized.
Well, it's like, the conversation that, me and Ed had with Bridget not too long ago. Our math teacher, friend that we've got. She brought up a good point. STEM education has completely failed, inside all the school districts. And, this goes out to the teachers in every single country who listens to us. Push for STEM education. Push for it. Be the change. Be the reason why kids are learning something different. Right there, the creating your own circuitry with a 3D printing paint pen, and filament and stuff like that. That is 100% STEM, 100%, because you have the science of what it's doing. You have the technology of making the things talk to each other through the filament. You have the engineering to be able to draw it out, and the math to figure out your current. And then the thing is if you can either go to the STEAM portion. Your A for the arts, to be able to draw that out, that's an art form. Mm-hmm. With that one little bit of a test, that ability to demonstrate that to kids, you have, or teenagers, or adults, or something like that, you have hit the STEM education point on the nose. Mm-hmm. That is the one way to make sure STEM carries through from generation to generation to generation. Not all of this, hey, guess what, I'm going to give every kid a Chromebook.
Yeah, that's...
I think that's bogus. I want to take the Chromebooks out of the classroom, give you a 3D printer paint pen, or give you a 3D printer, maybe give you and have your Chromebook loaded with a slicer on there, so you can learn math in a different way. Yeah. So you can learn engineering in a different way.
Yeah, I'm not so much against a Chromebook, in the senses I've kind of seen so far. Now, as your main form, it's a bit tougher. You're teaching that kid to rely on that. Now, granted, we all kind of rely on technology in some form or fashion, but like in
the ones that fix it, you won't rely on it very much longer.
Right, that doesn't make sense. But it's a means to an end. Right. Like it needs to teach you the process and show you why it is this way. Mm-hmm. We do this, like this automation. We do this because my arms and ligaments and tendons cannot outlast this robot. It's just simple as that, right? Exactly. So it's like, this is how this works. It takes a lot of work for you to do it. Watch this robot do it. It's probably going to do it the whole school year without stopping.
Yeah, and if you think about it, if everybody really wonders, does 3D printing mean anything, as far as availability wise? You can find it. You can find it in all 50 states in the nation. Mm-hmm. Everywhere, every single state. Guess what? We have 3D printing. Almost every country in the world, there's some form of additive manufacturing going on. Yeah. In this state, not in this state, but in this country, we have companies that are 3D printing rockets to send, or rocket components to send individuals into orbit, to send to the International Space Station, to take care of things that we don't know about. If you think about it, we're actually 3D printing on the International Space Station right now. Mm-hmm. So if you talk about it's hard to find stuff here, let alone be 300,000 miles in the sky. You might eventually find it. You know, it's not like as easy as getting an Amazon delivery.
Yeah, that's a lot tougher on the space station.
You know, you ain't getting Prime that day.
Well, see, now that kind of tackles the availability on a different side for me. So we're talking about not being able to order from Amazon. Or, by the way, I don't think we mentioned Micro Center.
No, we didn't.
If you've got a Micro Center nearby, there's not a lot of them. There's a couple dozen in the U.S. If you've got a Micro Center nearby, that's where you should go for this stuff.
They'll be in there. They'll talk your ear off about it.
Oh yeah, that they need you to know, and they've got the things. So that would be a good place to look if you can find one nearby to you. I think closest one to us is like Fairfax, Virginia.
Closest one to us is Atlanta.
Oh, Atlanta, Georgia. Okay, well that's not bad.
There's two in Atlanta.
So there's two of them. Yeah, that's kind of greedy. You go where the people go, right? It makes sense.
We can't get them here, so
yeah, that makes sense. But yeah, so like we're thinking about those things, like the availability in space. Yeah, in space is you're not gonna go to Home Depot and pick up a 2x4 to make something. You're not gonna you can't go to Lowe's and get a handle that you just broke.
Right.
You can't get this valve. You can't get all these pieces. So the easiest way is or I guess the only way at this rate is you need to make it on site. You need to make it there. Like you need to have the materials in some sort of fashion. Now, granted, they still have to get people to kind of get those materials to them, but at this point, they don't need to specify what those materials are going to be. Like, I just need these resources. Like, I just need this filament or this material and this weight.
Yeah.
Right? I don't need, a pallet of handles. I don't need a pallet of, knobs. I need that material, and I'll make how many I need.
Yeah. Send me some ABS, some nylon.
To be honest, they're probably working with some type of, like, alloys.
Especially if you're doing sintering printing.
Yeah.
You're probably using laser and using a dust. Yeah. However, the dust, I don't think is conductive to orbital research.
Oh, you're right. Just float around.
The dust can get in the air, and we start having some gravitational issues. Here in the U.S. or in the world, here on the planet, I guess you'd say, sintering is easy. Sintering is the next great thing. I saw something the other day that they're selling sintering kits for about $5,000 now. You can make your own homemade sinter.
Those things used to be hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah, they still are if they're put together.
Okay, that makes sense.
Now it comes in a box and with a good luck charm attached.
Yeah,
you might eventually figure this out.
Yeah, don't call us.
Right, but that's where we're getting to.
Yeah.
The availability to people is actually cheaper. It's getting to that point where it's being available. And the thing is, it's like also, you hear us talk about Micro Center and other places. Check out your hobby stores, your local like mom and pop hobby shops.
Oh yeah.
Oh, they definitely get that. They definitely get some of this stuff in.
Yeah.
Like for example, one of the hobby stores I like going to when I visit my family is Colonial Photo and Hobby. It's where I bought my camera from and stuff like that. They actually they're getting into the 3D printing business finally. But this company has also been around since my grandfather started going there. Back in the 50s or so, I think. So they've been around for a long time. Those guys are great, about models and stuff like that. However, here and there. It's about the fact that they're getting into this type of stuff. We actually have a hobby store north of us up in Columbia that they actually have 3D printing material there.
Okay.
But it's not down here in our local area. Which, is fine. You can still find it if you probably go to Michael's or something like that and take a look. However, like, a lot of times they're trying to say that Staples was going to carry it for a while. If Staples starts carrying it in Office Max and stuff like that, which you don't really get in Office Depot because they're owned by Office Max, then you might get a little bit more availability.
Yeah, it raises a good question.
And it's also, why doesn't Walmart carry this stuff?
Well,
they carry everything else.
That's true. They carry everything else under the sun. Yeah, you just made me think about it. Like, these places that sell like your LaserJet printers and your standard printers, like it shouldn't be hard to get to a 3D printer. But then, is it an appliance? Should I be selling this at like Home Depot or Lowe's like that? Yeah. I think that why not both?
Right.
So like you can have one on display up and away from everybody, It doesn't need to be making anything. You know what? Matter of fact, it can make something.
Yeah.
So I've worked in retail. I've worked at Best Buy, and there's a lot of clips and things like that go like your hooks, pegboards, and stuff like that. Like, why aren't we? Like, why do we need to make those out of, like, so much aluminum to make those? And they sit in bins in the back room for years, unused, just because maybe one time you had a release for something that had more slots for it to hang up, and then you don't need those anymore. Now you've got 2-3 bins in the back. Why don't I have a 3D printer for my business that's making those pins in time, right?
Just in sequence.
Yeah, so I don't have extras.
Yeah.
Or if I do, it's only a little.
And the thing is that's what I've heard. I don't know, we're going to go a little bit over time this week.
Yeah.
Because it's going to happen that way, a couple malfunctions in the process. But there's rumors going around that, Staples wants to have their creator labs now.
Yeah.
Where they have the sound rooms where you go and record songs and stuff like that. And they're also going to have, 3D printers there so people can learn to create with those. That for me is a great introduction into what you're getting into.
It's a fantastic innovation.
You can already go there and get everything else printed off.
Yeah, they were actually, when I was in Boston, the one in Somerville, which was like kind of Boston proper. It's not really Boston proper, but they had already done the remodel and put in the like an internet cafe, a studio booth. Yeah, I didn't see any printers though. But this was also before I had jumped into this rabbit hole with everybody else.
Right, but it's like overseas you have 3D printer labs. If you're in the United Kingdom, you have them. I've seen videos of them. They're there. They're in London proper. So if they're there, they can be anywhere. It's one of those things. Like I watched a video the other day of this guy with this huge lab, full of nothing but 3D printers. Yeah. However, why don't we have a place where you can send a STL to, like an email, say, guess what, print this for me.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Now your availability
went up. And tells you like, hey, this is what I need.
Right.
Or this or that, or tell you what would fail, or if it did fail. Yeah. Stuff like that.
But also, a place where you can go rent a 3D printer. I'm going to rent a 3D printer by the day.
That's a good idea.
A day or 2 days. Because if my print's going to take me 18 hours, well, now you're going to rent me for 2 days.
"Quote unquote" makerspace type.
Right, makerspace, exactly.
Because in college, my college didn't have an engineering program, so we had a bunch of mathematicians and a bunch of physics majors. I wouldn't call us physicists yet. We had to kind of put our time in, but we had a whole bunch of those guys that had ideas and needed to actually do capstone projects with an actual physical project, like a product at the end of it too. And we were lucky enough that there was a quote unquote makerspace across the street. And that if that was not there, I don't think that we do the same project that we did. Yeah. Which, by the way, guys, my capstone was a laser engraver with like 1,000 watts. It was ridiculous. Not a good idea. You shouldn't be in the same room as that. You will not see the laser, but it will cut you in half. So, yeah. We're trying to cut out aluminum.
But the thing is, if you think about it, if somebody wants, like if you have one of these pop up in multiple different parts of the country. Yeah. If you think about it, cool, I can rent this 3D printer for 2 days for $20.
That's a good.
It's cheaper than you paying, but that includes your filament for that day. Mm-hmm. For those 2 days, you get cool. I need to rent this printer for 2 days. I have an 18-hour print.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah. You still have 8 more hours to go to print something else if you want to.
Yeah, or it tells you like, hey, bring your own filament, and like you can make
But you pay for the filament for that day and stuff like that based on your original STL designs. Like if you bring me an STL and you say, cool, this is so much filament I'm using. Okay, cool. Now I can adjust your price.
Yeah, and the beautiful thing about it is also that you could probably just put a support, like they could use it for that day, hit print, and then if they leave, you have like only one person monitoring the farm. That's like, this person failed. You have a card, call that guy, tell him what's up.
Yeah, maybe restart it for him.
Yeah, and say, hey, do you want me to restart this, or do you want to like remote in maybe? And because you have like a little Chromebook next to it, or Raspberry Pi. So
that to me I think would be a great option.
And that answers It answers the availability on a much more economical level.
Yep.
You're not spending $300 to get a print up and running. You're spending $20 to $40.
Right.
And if you ask me, I think a lot of the problems and a lot of the pushback I get is what would I even print, or like what could you print, or what like can we do? Anything, man. Like
exactly.
I've got like 15 shelves. I've got a bookshelf. I've got like all these models from video games, movies, whatever.
Yeah, hell, right. Right now I'm printing something, that hopefully I can use to, help people with their retirement from, the Air Force.
Yeah.
I came from the Marine Corps side of the house, but still got to help out the people here locally.
Exactly.
It's not a bunch of us people running around.
But
the thing is that makerspace, is an idea for down the road, and different ideas once that comes about. So who knows? Yeah. You may see one of those pop up. You might see a little bit of a the 3D printer support group pop up, or a support area, a little bit of education tied to it. Mm-hmm. You never know, what we're going to come up with and stuff like that. And, that's something that, we're trying to push the envelope for.
And if it helps.
And if it helps somebody, hopefully it does, And so, let us know if you need help finding, parts, pieces, equipment. Because we can find things. We can, we'd be more than happy to help you. Mm-hmm. So, shoot us a message, leave us a comment, something, let us know if you need help. Don't be doing this alone. Yeah. Somebody's bound to determined to help you.
Yeah.
So, with that, I'm going to go ahead and we can, end it now. I want to say thank you to everybody. I've kind of looked at the stats lately, and we're getting a lot of people from other countries. We love it. I saw we got a lot of people from Singapore. Welcome. Glad to have you. Never been to Singapore, but hopefully I get to soon. Eventually, maybe we can go out there and talk to some of y'all about 3D printing or tech of some sort.
That'd be a fun trip.
I think that'd be awesome. Go out there and meet some makers in those areas. That could be something that comes up at a different date too. Who knows? May go, do a round table at different places. So depending on what type of what ideas we get, if that's something that everybody wants, then we'll definitely have to think about it.
Yeah, if the support's there, then it just makes sense.
Right, exactly.
It just makes sense. Why would we leave anybody out in the rain?
Right.
Right. We could 3D print you a house. Well, first off, we'd have to get the stuff.
Yeah, we have to get the concrete.
the giant printer, the Delta style printer, but like it's doable, and it's it makes it possibly a 3-person job.
Right. Exactly. So, and so I want to say thank you. I'm going to turn it over to John for their parting words, and we hope to
All right, guys. I don't have much else. I just greatly appreciate anybody listening. Number one, this is kind of a jump pad for. We talk about tech at lunch and just learning things new. This is like a nice launch pad for getting a lot of people into some of those, we would say, difficult to get to, or tougher, lower availability kind of ideas. And we are wanting to support and build on that. We want to teach that critical thinking and problem solving like attitude. So we appreciate you guys listening, and kind of honestly sometimes we're just rambling about some things, but if anything sticks with you, like we said something, you're like, what do you mean by that? I will talk your ear off for another 40 minutes about that one thing that we talked about. All you have to do is shoot us question, anything like that. I don't mind. Honestly, I'm messing with it anyway, so if you can distract me from the problems I'm already having, it's nice to step away from those and help someone for a change, and then go back to my problems. It feels good. So on that side, or on that note, I just want to say thank you again, guys, and stay tuned. We've got some more things coming out soon. So.
I know. See you. Thank you for listening to the Tech at Lunch podcast, where we hope you learned something about tech during your break or during your lunchtime. If you did, please give us a follow to prevent missing future episodes. If you have any ideas or something you want to hear or learn about, please send us a show idea to podcast@vulcanara.com. Hope you have a good rest of the day and continue learning.